Hi, welcome to OMT520, Strategic Management of Technology. I'm Dr. Cho, and I'll be your instructor for this semester. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. I thought we were getting Dr. Weissy. Unfortunately, Dr. Weissy is taken ill this semester, and I'm subbing in for him. Hopefully I can do honor to this course that he's developed. Now, what are my credentials to be teaching this sort of class? Well, I've got a bunch of publications in a lot of different fields. Even though I'm an electrical engineer by training, I actually have publications in aerospace journals. How did I do that? Guidance systems. I've done some publications here at Arizona State, one on entrepreneurship, which is the recipe to get through it. And the other is a system I call the groove. And those are the techniques I've learned over my career, how to execute more quickly with regards to research. I got a bunch of degrees from a lot of different places. Now, the most obvious question you're going to ask me is, why Ohio State? Yeah, there was a woman involved. I don't consider myself an academic guy. I consider myself an industry guy. This is my fourth year here at Arizona State. But I had a 28-year career where I pretty much served under every management position on the technology ladder, and I spent 10 years in Silicon Valley. And I have a bunch of global experience, although that global experience has mostly been in Europe and Asia. Yeah, it's a boatload of fun having to stay up till midnight so you can talk to Europe, and then have to stay up, get up at 5 a.m. to go talk to Asia. Yeah, I don't really recommend it. You might have seen some of my work in books. This is actually my doctoral thesis, and I made it into a textbook. It's actually pretty funny. I'm flipping through this textbook, and then all of a sudden I see my thesis in there, and it's like, wow. I wasn't expecting that. I have a bunch of patents. And my patents are actually highly varied. This first patent is actually an algorithm. And it's an algorithm where sensors can self-test each other. The thing is, every sensor out there today uses some kind of electronic force feedback, and I was the first one to propose it with this patent. And what happened is the University of Michigan is actually the owner of the patent, and they sold it for $2,500. Yeah, they didn't consult me on it. I wasn't particularly happy about it. I've done process patents. This is a device patent. I've done instrument patents, and I've done materials patents. And this patent is actually for the country of Spain. Why did they just pick Spain? I have no idea. But you can see a lot of varied technology. What I'm probably most well known for is I was the first one to build a commercial grade microgyroscope. And so you have 3 of them in your phone. The gyroscope measures the rotation of objects, and it's a big enough deal that Steve Jobs even talked about it in one of his keynotes. So one thing I want to start off with is, what is a strategy and what is a plan? And this is just my take and view on what strategy is. And so let's go through 3 examples. One is, we're going to cross-train all our employees on an assembly line. By cross-training, if we have absenteeism, we won't lose productivity because people will be able to swap out and everything else. Second one, it actually has to do with one of the great naval battles of all time. For those of you who have Netflix, it's actually called the movie The Admiral. Pretty good. Well, it's a Korean film, so the question is, do you like subtitles? But what happened is General Yusun-sin was facing the Japanese Navy, and he was outnumbered 133 boats to 13. What did Admiral Yu do? What he did is he picked the place where they were going to fight. And the place he picked had a lot of eddy currents. And so the Japanese boats were smaller than the Korean boats, so they had a very hard time with this. What he did is he put one boat in the strait just to kind of suck them all in. And behind that boat, he had much larger boats, and they were on calm water. The thing is, they had big cannons. And so by having those big cannons, you know, you don't want to be bouncing up and down or spinning around when you're firing a cannon. And so, and the other anomaly that took place in this strait is that at a certain point of the day, the water changed direction. Instead of going in, it would go out. And so what happened is he drew the other boats in, and they thought they could start to overwhelm them with sheer numbers. But then when the tide went in the opposite direction, they had big battering rams on their big ships and literally just kind of ran them over. The third one is a strategy, is we'll map out every tech space and put technologies in every sector and copy any new entrants. Now, what's a strategy and what's not a strategy? And number one is not a strategy. And the reason why is there has to be some kind of metric to a strategy. You have to have a way to measure whether or not you're successful or not. Number two is a strategy. There's an objective, but not only that, what separates strategies from plans is, are you applying your advantages to the situation to gain an advantage? And so number three, just monitoring something, that's a plan, that's not a strategy. And that's that all strategies are plans, but not all plans are strategies. And so those are the two big things we look for in a strategy. How do I go about applying my competitive advantages to a situation? And the other aspect of strategy is this is something that's done under uncertainty. And that's if you knew what was going to happen, then what's the point of having a plan or a strategy? But you need measurable and well-defined metrics to see how well it works. And in the next video, I'll go ahead and start talking about the first lecture.